the chain I got is too big. It's like 5 links too big. So I ordered a chain breaker to get rid of a couple links. And so it's gonna be a couple days before I can finish that. However, tonight I wanna get both engine covers off. I wanna get them painted. Then I gotta put more oil back in the bike, but to take the left side off, I gotta completely disconnect my stator. And then on the right side, I have to go ahead and drain the coolant and deal with that bullshit again. So I'm gonna just skip ahead to painting all the covers. Boom, done. Look at that. One case taken off. That one's sitting right here, ready to be painted. This is a familiar sight. Got the right side engine cover off. That is also sitting right there. Just needs taped up still. And we got the front sprocket cover chilling in the air right there, because that's gonna be painted first. Also, on the inside of your front sprocket cover, if you have one, I don't know how it's gonna be for you, but on mine, this whole thing was filled with grease and grime and all this nasty shit. I managed to get most of it out. There's still a little bit in there, but I'm not too worried about it. All right, we're all done. So this is the color it came out to. I think it doesn't look half bad. Side note for your stator and flywheel cover, if you do paint it, make sure you take out the stator, and when you do take it out, make sure you put it somewhere really safe and really sanitary. You don't want anything nasty getting on there. So with that being said, my stator is on top of this dirty Arby's bag. Alright, there it is. Stator cover's on there. It's all plugged in. Go to the other side, and here's the clutch side. And I got this metallic red oil plug, whatever it's called. Matches the levers up here. So, looking good. I don't think it's too bad. Okay, so positive progress on the exhaust fiasco. Here's the headers. This header bolts straight onto the front cylinder. And then right here is where the front cylinder splits off into one exhaust, and the rear cylinder also splits off into a different exhaust. So I think I figured out where my leaks came from. Here's the front cylinder header. This one was not leaking at all, which is good. Where I was having difficulty was my rear header. This is technically the mid-pipe section of the rear header, and then the actual rear header is right here. Now, where the rear header connected to the mid-pipe, I had a leak. It was pretty bad. On top of the engine already not being tuned to run straight pipes, it did also have a leak, which brought the power down even less and made it run like shit even more. What I've been doing is I've been cleaning off all the connection points where there were leaks, then as well as cleaning the clamps, so that way I can reclamp it, giving it a fresh, clean, good connection. Alright, so some things have happened. Time has passed. Let's talk about some stupid things that happened. So a couple personal things happened in my life the last few days. Basically, I had to clean this whole place up, throw all the parts I could back on the bike. So the new chain's on there. Cleaned up the wheel, the swing arm, the headers are back on there. The slip-ons are not back on there yet. But what happened was I thought I got everything all back together. The only thing is obviously that chain's not tightened, it's just fitted. I went to throw oil and coolant back in here. Probably within 5 minutes, I noticed I'm having some drip underneath the bike, and it's coolant. Decide to just let it go, see if it was just me maybe splashing it somewhere. It kept leaking, didn't stop, so I'm looking for a leak. I checked behind the crankcase. I found coolant leaking from a little corner up here all the way in the back where the crankcase meets the engine and not where the crankcase meets the water pump, which is worrisome because that means there could be coolant in my oil. And sure enough, I checked my oil. It was looking a little bit green, and it's kind of hard to see. There's a little bit of green in there. That's something you definitely don't want ever. That's a terrible thing to have. Most likely from me screwing up the gasket. Did it quick, didn't take my time, didn't apply it on thick enough, and yeah, so that really sucks. However, because I had just put the oil in and the coolant in, I still had not started the bike. I haven't ran it since a while ago, before I even took off the chain and all that. So luckily, none of this contaminated oil actually circulated through my system. It all leaked just somewhere around here, internally. Maybe a little bit got on the clutch, but I doubt that. I think it just dripped, leaked, and is probably sat somewhere near the bottom of the engine. So luckily, didn't get in any pumps. It's not in my heads. It's nowhere important. It was just contaminated oil that was sitting in there. That's not too bad. It's pretty easy to fix, because since it was all sitting at the bottom anyway and none of it has circulated through, you just gotta empty out your oil, redo your gasket, and you put everything back together and you throw new fluids in there. And I think it should be good. So I'm gonna basically just let this drip for a while, try to get as much drip as I possibly can out of there, redo this case, and then we'll try again, hopefully with no leaks. But yeah, that really sucks, because I am really starting to not be a fan of changing the coolant in this. It's also expensive. I mean, like, that was brand new oil. I was kind of pissed about that. That was like really good quality oil too. I'm gonna go ahead and fix this, and then we're gonna go back to more in detail stuff. And then we got fun stuff planned. Oh yeah. I'm super hyped to put these on. I've been wanting to try a motorcycle with a Quickshifter on it for the longest time. And I love gear indicators. So thank you very much, Heel Tech, for these. I cannot wait to try them. Alright, so there's the inside. So there's the gasket I had on. It's not very pretty. And you can already see it. Look, there's one little pocket of coolant right there. Sitting on this little, where's my finger at? This little lip right here. There's a little bit on this bolt. I don't know. But I'm gonna try and get all this cleaned up and get as much coolant out of here as I can. And then reseal it. Alright, this is a huge pain in the ass, but so far I got the bike side all cleaned up. Now I gotta do the case side. Okay, cover's back on. Fantastic. The leak was coming out of this seam right here. And while I'm waiting for this, I'm going to keep letting this drain just as much as I possibly can. I want every last drop of coolant out of that thing. Alright. So that's all perfectly tightened down and curing. I was really lucky that once I put the fluids in, I did not try starting the bike at all because I noticed the leak before. So now all we can do is wait and hope for the best. So that's, I mean, it's really stupid that that happened, but it's cool that I'm able to record trying to fix it and show anybody that might be doing this for the first time what happens if you're not careful. You go too quick and you screw up. Part of me thinks I'm overthinking a lot of this. I think we'll probably be okay. We just have to be really mindful of the oil. Like I said, none of it got into the heads or in the cylinders or anything like that. It just all drained and sat at the bottom. So we will see. All right, back on this side of the bike, it's time to talk about the things that happened off camera. So we got the headers back on. I mentioned that after retightening them, everything seems to be okay. We found that dent in the front of the front cylinder header, and I think that might have just knocked some shit out of place. So not worried about that. The headers are tightened down, good to go. Everything feels tight and good and gravy and all that. We got the chain on. So you saw me cut the chain off at the beginning. The chain I got was too long, and we had to order a chain breaker to shorten that. Now I want to talk about how a chain breaker works. Alright, so here is the block for your chain breaker and the pin assembly. The first thing you want to check whenever you get your chain breaker is which pin you're going to need. So you want to have the one that's the closest size to the pins already in your chain. We totally forgot to check this and it bent it. In other cases, they might totally shatter. You want to try and get one of these clamps to hold your chain breaker down. That's going to make it a lot easier for you. Next, you're going to take the portion of your chain that you're trying to break, and you're going to place it in here like so. And this pin is going to match this hole inside the chain breaker block. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get my pin started once it's fully assembled with the right pin size underneath there. I'm going to get this started. Then then I'm gonna line it up. It kind of guides itself in a little bit. This part doesn't have to be too tight, but a lot of the tightening is gonna come from this top portion, pushing the pin through. And what's really going to help you is a breaker bar and maybe some impact sockets. And then you just start tightening down until you hear a pop. The bar should do most of the work for you. There it is. So then, once the pin is through, you just pull it apart. And you still got your gaskets, all your shit. But yeah, it's not too difficult. If you're just taking the chain off your bike and it's trash anyway, I recommend cutting it off. I think it's a little bit easier because using these like mid-air kind of sucks. So the concept of tightening the chain is to move the wheel backwards onto the swing arm. It should be like that for just about every single bike that uses a chain system. If you're just tightening your chain, the first thing you want to do is you want to make sure that your axle nut is loose, so that way the wheel can move freely back and forth. Now the second thing you want to do, these little screws, and this is your tightening system might be a little bit different than mine. For the Super Hawks, you have this screw on the back of your swing arm, and you want to basically tighten that screw all the way in. Then once you've done that, you want to loosen the screw, and when you loosen the screw, it's going to pull the wheel backwards. And what you can do is you can use these little tick marks on the top of your adjuster to measure how far back your wheel is. However, they might not be perfectly accurate, so you can do that, but make sure you eyeball your chain to make sure not only is it tight, but it's also aligned. So you'll want to look at it from this angle to see if it's perfectly straight coming from the back of your sprocket all the way to the front sprocket. And that's good to go. I think it's time to focus on something a little bit more fun. Finally time to install a Quickshifter and a gear indicator on the bike. Somehow Heeltech has made a Quickshifter that works on any kind of motorcycle simply by just cutting off a spark to the engine. They have lists online for what bikes they support, so if you're having trouble looking for a Quickshifter, maybe check out Heeltech. See if their Quickshifter Easy is something that you might want. So I'm going to go ahead, open these up, go through the directions and everything. I don't have a whole lot of camera battery left. I'll come back intermittently with updates. Okay, so I have an understanding of this. So when Heeltech sends you a Quickshifter, you get the Quickshifter unit, and then you also get a separate thing, which is basically the wiring for it, which varies depending on what kind of bike you have. You have to set up two things, and then they plug into each other. So I'm going to start with the unit, and then I'm going to do the wiring. Here's the actual sensor itself. This little guy will stick onto your shift rod, shown in these pictures. Boom, sensor's on there. I have it all good and ready to go. I have the wiring all tucked in, nice and neat. I had a bunch of excess I have just kind of wrapped around and tucked in there with the zip ties. There's the unit. And it works. I just tested it. I didn't test the actual function, but I did turn the bike on. I paired it to my phone, opened the app. It is reading pressure down here, which is awesome. So it's working. So the instructions for that were super easy to follow. I think there's some terminology in there that if you're really new to mechanical stuff or electrical stuff, you might have to do a couple of Google searches. They have this wiring diagram laid out of exactly how they want you to do it. You have your pickup coil on your crankcase position sensor, also known as the ignition pulse generator, which is something we changed. So that will go to your ECU, then the ECU goes to your spark plugs. So here's how you have to wire it in. So it was super basic because you just have the unit here with the wires and whatever. They have two green wires. One of each wire goes into one of each of the wires on your ignition pulse generator. Then you have a ground, and then you have a power. And you set the power to something you know that gets 12 volts whenever the bike is turned on, not constantly. So you don't want to just plug it into your battery. So what I did was I went online, looked up the wiring diagram for the ECU here, and instead of running all the wire all throughout the bike and possibly creating a hazard, I just read on the diagram what each of these wires were, and I took the ones for the ignition pulse generator and I just wired it up here. And then I also have the power for the ECU. I have the power for that. tapped into that as well. So these will share the same power and then only comes on when the bike is on. So it worked out pretty well. It's not too bad. I was expecting worse. So now I'm gonna do the gear indicator. The gear indicator was so easy to set up. I love the way it looks, especially when it turns on, it counts up, comes back down. It's really nice, and it's so visible during the daytime too. I really have no complaints about it at all, and it works miraculously. The gear indicator taps in to just one wire at your ECU, so that was another one I had to do. But then it just bridges into your wire going to your speedometer. So basically the gear indicator picks up your speed and your RPM, and then when you set it up the first time, you go on a ride, it just learns the gears really quickly, and then once it learns them, it permanently learns them. And as long as your clutch isn't slipping, you will always have a correct reading on what gear you're in. So that's pretty neat. I wish I could have gotten more footage of me installing it, but it was really that easy. It was just feeding wires through and then plugging them in where they need to go. If you do the research on your bike, download the service manual, it'll have all the graphs, all the charts and everything telling you what wires do what or whatever. So I just spoke with my good buddy Carl on the groups on Facebook about his heel tech Quickshifter, and he, I guess, has it all figured out. He knows all the right settings and everything. So I'm gonna go ahead and use his settings and then go on another ride later today to test it out. So you want your Quickshifter to be on, and you want to connect to it from your Bluetooth. Mine shows up as IQSE. And when you launch the app, it's going to look like something like this, and you're going to get a live reading of everything going on. So if I put pressure on the shifter, it is going to pick it up, as you can see. So the first thing I want to do is I want to get My sensor setup settings all taken care of. And if we go back to mine, I have 15 milliseconds and 50%, so I'm going to bring that down to 20, just like his. And then you're going to want to go to the cutoff times menu, and you're going to want to go to the expert settings. And then from here you can manually change each one individually to exactly what you want to do. So I'm going to go ahead and do that right now. Alright, so those are all good.